Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Daniel Federico Show. The second time this week you guys are gonna be seeing me, but this time with my CFL insider, I like to call him Anson Gross. Anson, how you doing today, buddy?
Hey man, I'm great. How are you doing?
Dude, I'm doing fantastic. We're here to talk about the Canadian Football League playoffs. Last week, unreal matchups. We're gonna go game by game. We're gonna talk about it, and then we'll talk about the divisional finals. All right, how about that? That sound good?
Yeah, that's
Perfect.
great.
First game I want to talk about is the East semifinals. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers being the crossover team going up against the Montreal Alouettes in the first half of that game. It was all Montreal and it was all Davis Alexander. What do you think about that game?
I mean, can we talk about Tyson Philpott?
Oh yeah.
That guy had two touchdowns. He had a rushing, and then he had a passing. And then Alexander decided, why not get in on the rushing action and score one from a little couple yards out too? They were all there. They were ready to go, man. They came firing out of the gate because they've been sitting waiting to go with all their starters.
And then the second half, Winnipeg woke up.
Yeah, Wilson had two rushing touchdowns himself.
Yeah.
Then Ontario Wilson scored from deep,
Yeah,
which
54 yarder.
again, can't believe that. Caleres, how that guy's still playing, I don't know. He, that's still something to question. But yeah, and then Stevie Scott come out of nowhere. Hello, two touchdowns in the second half. Guy puts up over what do you put up? 100 yards rushing.
Yep.
Come on. Who's that guy? Where's that guy been? That guy's been a little quiet.
But that's a great play. Yeah, he's been quiet, but that's a playoff player that you want right there. He'll make a name for himself right now in the Grey Cup playoffs. Pretty tremendous to see. And that game as a whole was like I was pretty shocked in how the first half went for Montreal and Winnipeg. I thought it'd be way closer in the first half. Yes, it ended up be at the end of the game being closer. But the reason why Winnipeg did not win this game is they did not play a full game. They did not play a full 4 quarters of football. They played 2 quarters, maybe two and a half. The second quarter, they kind of woke up a little bit near the end. But you show that in the Grey Cup playoffs, you got to play a complete 4 quarters here.
Oh, yeah, 100% you do. If you don't play those four quarters, man, you ain't winning a football game. You
Yeah.
can't rely on one side of the ball to show up. You need both sides of the ball firing off at both ends, right? If look at Montreal there with Davis Alexander, that guy's undefeated. If they keep that going, it's going to be scary for who they play next. And if, how far if they make it, to the Grey Cup or not, if the guy can keep his undefeated streak going.
See, this is where I think that Montreal is a great playoff football team. I think they're great on the defense. We're not going to talk about what happened to Sean Oakman that he's out, but
Nope, not
but
talking about
we're
that.
not going to talk about that. And I thought that had been a big piece they were missing, but I was incredibly wrong because he actually has not been the biggest piece this year. But I always thought, the depth piece of that D line, but they didn't skip a damn beat anywhere. Montreal came out and they were firing right away. Yeah, maybe it's because they're in the front of their home crowd. They're playing a crossover team that has not been that consistent this year. And Montreal, I was the Montreal show. This offense. I haven't seen this offense be on this much firepower. I think all year right off the gate. Like yes, they've been good this year, but I have not seen them have such a fast, smooth start all year.
Oh yeah, 100%. Watching that game, I was just like, who is this team, right? Like they're scary. Like
Yeah,
you look at it and you go, Winnipeg should be contenders against the Alouettes coming to crossover. Crossovers are hard to let alone. But Winnipeg was like, we don't care who we play, we're gonna be the team to beat. And clearly it wasn't good enough to beat the Alouettes because the Alouettes, man, they were like you said, they're firing on all cylinders, dropping 17 points in the first quarter. Like, come
yeah,
on, that's unreal.
and
That's
and
that's
that's
it.
that's crazy. And then it seemed like in the second quarter, Winnipeg were starting to get in their legs going, and you can see that coming in with the third quarter where they scored 21 points in the third quarter. I'm pretty sure Winnipeg did, and you can see them really get their feet underneath them, and they started to come together. But there just wasn't enough time for them to bring it all together because they started so late. And that is the disappointing part here, and especially being a crossover team. It's already hard enough. So and stuff like that. But when you're playing on the road in the playoffs, you have to you have to play right off the jump. You can't let Montreal score 17 unanswered points against you right in the first half, and that's the sad part there. But what do you think is next for Winnipeg? Because this is their first time not being in the Grey Cup in what, 5 years? Make it
something
longer?
like that.
Yeah, something like
But
that. But
like
what do you think is next for them?
they're already planning on bringing back Claris, which I don't think they should be doing. Realistically, I think they should be just letting him walk and rebuild. Let it be rebuild because did they not? They drafted pretty decently, I thought, right? Like,
Hmm.
did they not
Don't
draft
Don't they have Taylor
Taylor Algiers?
Algersma? Yeah, they drafted
Yeah,
Taylor Algersma, and he hasn't been playing football yet because he's still waiting for his shot in the NFL, or he's coming to the, or he's optimistic, but he might be coming to the CFL literally next season. But I'm thinking, well, my thought process is here: if you have Taylor Algersma come into the Canadian Football League next year, and he's already has his the Winnipeg has his right, so he has to go and play for Winnipeg. Does he just sit behind 1 year with Zach Collaros as more of a mentorship role? Obviously, still quarterback one, but as more as a mentor for Taylor Algersma to take the keys? Is that the type of role that they're thinking they're painting?
I would hope so. Like that guy, if you can make it to at least a training camp for the NFL, you got some kind of talent there, right?
Yeah,
He's a big dude. He's a big dude at quarterback. Like he's 6'5". Come on. Like a
yeah,
6'5" quarterback, that's NFL height, right? That's a big and he was mobile in university.
yeah.
Wasn't like he was like a pocket passer. He was a mobile 6'5" quarterback. So if he came to the CFL, hopefully, he actually learns and gets that experience behind a veteran like Zach Collaros. Because if Zach goes down again, where does he question his career? Like, what does he do?
And I think he this like next year will have to be his last year being a quarterback or even being a starting quarterback in this league or being just being a pro athlete. The reason why I think that is because his body is digressing year in and year out, and it showed immensely this year how much his body has regressed and how many times he's gotten hurt, taken out of games, brought back into games, taking a game off, and there and it showed a lot. That might just be that. I think that could just be with age, and it is. So it might be time for his body to tell him, "Hey, you're not young anymore. You're not like how you used to be. I think it's time to take a step back, just back up role." But I think he does have 1 more year of being a starter. But if Winnipeg's trying to go in a rebuild year, I kind of like it because then they'll take a mentorship year with Taylor Eilersma. Zach Large goes, "Hey, this is how it is to be a starting quarterback in this league. I'm going to show you the ropes. You're going to be my rookie, and then next year, here's the torch, here's the keys to the castle, and you're going to be the starting quarterback for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in
Yeah.
2027." And
Oh,
that's how I think it's going to go. But
right.
I,
And
but for sure 1 more year, right? 1 more year,
you
Zach Lars.
you got to think about it too. If these new rule changes are coming into effect, these veteran guys, they're eventually just going to be like, I can't do this no more. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they got to change their whole game. So if you get a guy like Taylor Algersma coming in, he can learn the new rules behind a veteran quarterback and he'll get a better understanding. So when he takes over, he gets to adjust on the fly compared to these veteran guys having to change their whole game to adjust to the new CFL rules.
And for the people listening, this is only like I would say like a what if Taylor Algersma comes to the
Yeah.
Canadian Football League. I don't know. I've not heard of him. I haven't heard from him since getting dropped from the Green Bay Packers. I don't know what he's even up to right now. I don't even know what he's doing. If he's because they're in week 10 of the NFL. I don't think he's going to be getting signed anywhere. The CFL season's over, so I'm thinking next year he's going to be on a Canadian football team training camp in May. And that's just what we're thinking. This is all speculation if he does come to the CFL. And I think the smart route would be, and the bigger picture is, yes, he is going to be coming to the Canadian Football League next year. And I think he's going to be taking a year to learn behind a great career he's had, Zach Lars, for sure. Do you think he's a Hall of Famer? I think he's a Hall of Famer.
I mean, if you would have told me after he was in Saskatchewan, then Toronto, I would have never guessed he was a Hall of
Yeah.
Famer.
Yeah.
right? Going from, Hamilton, Saskatchewan, then getting taken out by Simone, right?
Mhm.
And then going to Toronto and basically holding the clipboard. The
Yeah.
next thing you know, he ends up in Winnipeg, and the guy's winning Grey Cup after Grey Cup, creating a dynasty in the CFL, right? So now you got to these, and he had the college career at Cincinnati, but you got to look at it as the guy is. If it wasn't for him, that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers would not be good.
No, they,
Like
they they really weren't. They
they
wouldn't be.
had the defense,
Yeah.
but they didn't have that firepower offense that Zach Collares brought because Zach Collares is a game manager, right? He
Yeah.
knows how to manage a game and not take anything dumb. Like he rarely throws interceptions, that guy, right? Because he
No,
knows
yeah.
how to read a defense. He knows how to stay in the pocket. He scrambles if he has to, but that's a big if he has to scramble.
And you're gonna
But yeah,
see,
he knows
and you
what he's
don't see it
doing.
much anymore. I
No,
mean, I think he's done. His running game is finished, and if he's forced to run, he's just gonna throw it away. It's just, those knees are not 25 years old anymore. They're old now. They're crumbling. Um, but yeah, I think it's one more year. Zach Lurch retiring after this year. Where does Winnipeg go from here? They Taylor Eglisma. Is O'Shea gonna come back after Zach Collaros retires, or are you just gonna bring a? What would you do if you're Winnipeg? Bring a whole new staff in and bring a bunch of new voices in, a bunch of new players? Because we've seen it. You can't do a rebuild in 1 year. Like look at Calgary Stampeders. They did a rebuild in 1 year.
yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, though. I think a guy like O'Shea, the only way he's done as a coach is if he steps away.
I like that.
Right? Right? Because the way you look at it is that guy's a winning coach. He doesn't lose too many seasons. So I think he personally is a guy that will just eventually step away from the game when he's done, or he knows he can't win anymore. Because he's never going to get fired. Because if he gets fired, something drastically has to happen. Because
Yeah,
that guy,
he has like tenure in the Canadian Football League where he can stay for as long as he wants and forever. He has a permanent job here in the CFL because how much of a winning culture coach he is, like winning culture he brings to the team. How great he's been in the CFL. He's probably one of the best coaches in the Canadian Football League right now, if not the best coach, I would think, by overall career. And I think, yeah, he has like tenure in the CFL. He's just never gonna get fired unless like something, yeah, like you said, drastically happens. Like it's like hopefully nothing really bad happens, but if they do lose like 4 years in a row and not make the playoffs, something like that, then he'll be on. But I doubt
yeah,
it. With a coach like that, you're always going to be in the playoffs or competitive.
exactly. And another thing is, let's be real. If you're a team that's struggling and you see Mr. O'Shea's available, you're backing up the truck and you're going, how do I get this guy come coach my team and change the program?
Yeah, I know,
Right?
100%. Yeah,
How do you say no to a coach like that? That's like if the Argos right now, for instance, they are struggling hard. If they were to one day decide that O'Shea's wide open, he's available for business, you can come get him. He's a coach now. Who says you don't get rid of your coach? Bring in O'Shea. Used to play for the Argos.
hmm
Don't forget that. Used to play for the Argos. Turn your whole program around and get people in those seats and watching again.
and they are struggling. And I'm gonna ask you a question after we talk about these two games on the other teams that didn't make the playoffs on what their process in this offseason is going to be. But we got to move to this next game. The West semifinals, heartbreaking loss. By the way, I was watching the game, heartbreaking loss for the Calgary Stampeders. Because if most people don't know, my brother plays for the Calgary Stampeders, and I was watching this game and it just crushing defeat. Um, Sad to see it how the season ended. It was a storybook summer, I'd like to say, for the Calgary Stampeders. There was bums finally back in the seats at in Calgary. But yeah, they lose 33-30 on a walk-off field goal. But I gotta ask you this: what was this clock management in the fourth quarter from Calgary?
I don't know. I don't know. You would think with a veteran coach, Dickinson behind the helm, he would be figuring out what to do and his clock management would be a lot better. When you watch that game, you would think Calgary should have won that game,
Yeah,
right? Calgary had more passing yards, they had the more rushing. They just looked like they were ready to go, but something didn't click in that fourth quarter. Why is their clock management just, disappointing.
especially on that final drive. What was it? They had a minute with the ball. They're down. They're down a couple. How many points were they down going in this final drive or second last drive?
I
I
think
forget.
they
I think
in
they
the
were down.
fourth quarter they scored 10 points, right?
Yeah, but they were down by a couple points going with there was a minute left, and they just kept on doing deep shots at the ball. It worked because a crazy catch from Jalen Philpott that was spectacular, put them in field goal range, and they kick a field goal with 29 seconds remaining, and you're thinking, okay, you're up. Yeah, oh yeah, they were up by one point. It was what was it? I'm trying to think right now. What was it? Was it they were going up? It was it tie game? They must have tied the game, right? And then it was going to go to overtime. Yeah, it was like 30 to 27 or something like that. No, it was 30-30. It was 30-30. But Calgary was down 30 to 27. Calgary has a minute left on the clock. I know they were trying to go for a touchdown, but in the CFL, if you leave just too much time on the clock, it doesn't matter. Like you leave 29 seconds like they did on the clock. BC with Nathan Rourke, they're going to drive down in field goal range for one of the best CFL kickers, Sean White, and that's exactly what they did to win the game. But I was thinking once they got in that field goal range, they were just going to run the clock, bring it down to zero, have Pederis or whatever is how do you say his name? The kicker's
Rene
name.
Paredes.
Yeah, Pederis. Kick game tying field goal, go to overtime, have a shot to win it in overtime. And I think that's what they were thinking of too. But then they left 29 seconds left on the clock. That's too much time. And I was sitting there with my buddies because we were also watching, getting ready for Game 7 of the Toronto Blue Jays game. And we had the two TV setup, and I'm just like, oh, they left too much time. Like in the CFL, my friends are not really like into the CFL as much as I am, but they're like, I was telling them like, oh, the clock stops a lot in the last 20 seconds. They're gonna have time to get these plays off, and that's exactly what happened. Nathan Rourke is just beast. He's just a beast. This guy is probably the best quarterback in the CFL, and to drive down that field and get them in field goal range, and then with time eliminated on the clock with 0 seconds, kicking a game-winning field goal, that is terrible. But I think the clock management just was not there for the Calgary Stampeders, and that's why they lost.
Oh, you also got to look at this. How do you give them 30? You give them 30 seconds. So what? You give them 30 seconds. Sometimes defenses, if you're trying to just take it to overtime, where's the defense?
Yeah, that's also yeah.
That's another thing. You got to make sure that your defense is on the field and wanting to play. You're not playing a defense that's going to be like, oh, we'll give up the field goal. But you got to realize if you give up the field goal, you lose the game.
Yeah,
You're done. You're out of the playoffs. There's no next week where you can go, oh, it's okay. We lost with this week. We can make it up next week. No, no, no. This is playoffs. You got to stay locked in for 4 quarters of football because
and
everybody knows in the
yeah,
CFL, the clock in the game ain't over till that clock hits 0, 0, 0.
exactly. And the one thing that I always found questionable was, they're playing like the defensive backs and the linebackers. They're playing the boundaries. Smart thing to do. You still got to play the middle of the field because that middle is wide open now. And just like that, Nathan Rourke is going to find the middle of the field and expose you and get you guys in field goal range, like exactly like he did. But I was telling my buddies, I was just like, they have to make sure that middle of the field isn't wide open, or it's going to be a massive gain. There was, and I left that game head scratching a little bit. Again, my head was scratching a little bit where I was just like, what? How the clock just stops and they still can get those plays off in 0 seconds. Don't open up the field like that. I like how you
Exactly.
play. I like how you're playing the cautious, playing the boundaries, but you still gotta have some awareness to make sure you defend the middle of the field, and that's what they just lacked. And you know, it was just that's just a tough defeat. Like the first half didn't go their way, Calgary's way. From the jump, it seemed like BC had a lot more energy. It looked packed there, looked great. I know they opened up the top bowl, even though there was not many people in the top and the higher bowls, but the lower bowls they looked great. It looked good. Football in BC looks good right now, and they
Yeah.
now they have to go play a tough team in Saskatchewan. But I'm gonna ask you this: what is next for the Calgary Stampeders going in this year because they have Vernon Adams Jr. He's he played probably his best football this year.
He needs to be healthy.
Yeah,
If that guy's healthy, you have the whole you're gonna have that home field advantage against BC. You're
yeah.
not gonna win the division against Saskatchewan. You would have made it close. I would have said this would have been a lot closer than what it was. But if he stays healthy for the entire year, that's been his problem his whole career. He can't stay healthy. He can't like I don't know that guy. If he has a full season, he dominates the league, right?
Yeah.
He's in a CFL quarterback. He's built for this league. If he's healthy, he's the guy. He would I put him in all the conversations for MOP, top guy in the league, like top three quarterback, whatever you want to say. But the minute he gets hurt, that team suffers because that team builds their team around his abilities as a quarterback.
And I think also the other thing that they do in the offseason is to, you know how he can't stay healthy. You got to keep that in mind now. If you're a coach building a roster, you got to keep that in mind now. The PJ Walker experiment sadly just didn't work out. Trust, I was rooting for him. I think PJ Walker is a fun quarterback to watch, especially when he was back in Carolina with the Panthers. Um, but that experiment, trash it. It just didn't work. So trash it now. You need to find a quarterback that will make your offense not skip a beat when Vernon Adams Jr. is absent. Hopefully he's never absent next season. Hopefully he's healthy for a full season. Um, but now how many times he got hurt this year? How many times he left the game? And you see how the offense drastically fell. You have to keep that in mind now, and you have to find a second string quarterback that will make sure this offense doesn't digress. And another thing is Vernon Adams Jr. The games that he was playing, he was fully healthy from week one of the CFL season, and that's this summer. I gotta say, this summer, from June to July, that team was on fire. And I think if they were just like that, because they beat Saskatchewan, they beat
Yep.
the heavy opponents, but they just couldn't beat Ottawa for some odd reason. Still find that
That
strange.
game was hard to watch.
Yeah, and but they've done they're I would like to say their summer like this summer for the Calgary Stampeders was a storybook summer. They were winning week in and week out, and they were dominating week in and week out. This defense was dominating. Injuries did overcome this team this year, and that's the tough part. A lot of the stars were injured, especially with Flo going down for the rest of the year. That was tragic, and he is a killer. He's a beast on that football field. Jalen Hutchins too. I've talked to Jalen Hutchins a couple of times. That guy is a beauty. Such a nice guy. Killer this year too. So happy how he did this year. I really, really do hope he does get some NFL opportunities in the future. But if he doesn't, I think Calgary's gonna be so happy because I think Calgary found an absolute gem in Jalen Hutchins.
Yeah, 100%. Don't forget though, they got Maldine, right? They
Yeah,
traded for him after they found out Flo was hurt and they were done. They were like, yeah, it was one of those rare CFL trades you don't see too often. A guy who's defensive player of the year a couple years ago for Ottawa, when they were still struggling, but his defense, it was impeccable. They go out and get a guy like him, try to help, and it helped.
it
No, don't
did.
get me wrong. It wasn't like it was a terrible trade, but it still wasn't, that defense, like you said, that defense from June to July, nobody could touch that defense. That defense was like the years that the Grey Cup champions when Winnipeg was.
Yeah,
Those defenses, right? They were just untouchable. They were like in the fourth quarter, they were giving up less than 3 points a quarter,
yeah,
right? That's what Calgary is looking like. And I'm like, oh, this is a promising season. I'm rooting for Calgary, right? Like, because they're coming off a slow season. It wasn't their ironic season or sorry, their ideal situation in their seasons. But like after they had the troubles with Bowl, they were just like, what do they do? What do they do next?
yeah.
Then next Rourke comes back, Vernon Adams becomes available. Hey, let's go get this guy. He can start. And that summer they had that was a summer you can't forget because they were that good of a team.
I'll never forget watching this team in the summer. I remember I was there in early July when the Stampede was going on, and the energy in that city, just the energy being at that game for the Stampede Bowl, the very first Stampede Bowl. That was an unreal experience to have and be there. And I think this summer, I think there was a lot of memories for these guys that they will remember forever, and it has to be some of their favorite memories and their pro careers that happened this summer. That summer, that was the most ideal summer. But I do have to say though, where it kind of came to an end was the later weeks in August, the early weeks in the month of September just wasn't ideal, just wasn't how it's supposed to go. And this storybook summer just had now a sad ending on an incredible season and an incredible movie. But I do think something in me believes that the Calgary Stampeders are gonna have this salty taste in their mouth coming up from till all the way next year, and I think they're gonna come out harder next year. And I know they have a lot of free agents that they have to take care of. If I remember that three down nation list, but I'm pretty sure the one big one that keeps on popping in my head is Dedrick Mills. They have to find a way to resign him, and they have to make sure they do it.
Yeah, like yeah, they knew they had a guy in Dedrick Mills when they got rid of like they let go of Kadeem Carey,
Yeah,
right? They knew they had a guy and they got him, and Kadeem Carey goes off to Toronto and then he plays 1 year, gets cut, goes to Saskatchewan, suffers a season-ending injury, right? So it's like, well, we knew what guy to pick. But at the same time, they were running with three running backs at the time Kadeem Carey was there. They had Kadeem Carey, Dedrick Mills, and Peyton Logan. Those are the three running backs, right? And they
yeah,
found that Dedrick Mills out of the three was the best guy. So they let Peyton Logan walk. They let Kadeem Carey go to Toronto. They let Peyton Logan go to Winnipeg, who didn't do much there because he was hurt too.
yeah.
They had their guy and they found their guy, and they were winning football games while running the ball with him.
Mhm.
If they didn't run the ball with him, they weren't winning football games because you need to set up those quick play action in the CFL with your run game. If you can run the ball on an average of 4 to 5 yards on first down, you're left with second and short, and that's enough for a quick pass, and that's where Vernon Adams would dominate. Sure, his deep ball is great, but if he gets his time, he can hit those check down passes no problem.
100%. And it really helps too, but they had a pretty good offensive line this year. And the one thing do I also like is Dedrick Mills. He is. I really hope they do re-sign him. And once they do, I think the future is bright in Calgary. They have a young receiving core too, with Jalen Philpott and Clark Barnes, and they have the Moose Alfred. He's going to be coming back next season. He was just had a tough shortened season this year due to injury. Um, but overall, Calgary, I think moving forward, are in such a great, I think, place right now. I think that they just need to get back to that, come out physical, hopefully stay healthy. And at the end of the day, it just came out who was the more healthier team coming in the playoffs, and it just didn't end up being Calgary's day. But they have a lot to look good on. And they have a lot to look forward in the future. But one thing I also want to take, what a weekend it was for the Philpott brothers. Tyson Philpott having 133 receiving yards on 18 catches, and then Jalen Philpott having 120 receiving yards on 7 carries. On
Yeah.
receptions for both of them. Unreal. Great weekend for the Philpotts. Oh, am I losing you? No, no. Let me pause this. And I also another thing I want to talk about is what a weekend it was for the Philpott brothers. Jalen Philpott's 7 receptions for 120 yards and one touchdown pass or one touchdown catch, and then Tyson 133 for 18. What a weekend for the Philpott brothers! And you know what the best part is? That's they're Canadian in the Canadian Football League. Unreal. And those two are very bright for the sport and very bright futures for the Canadian football game. But now let's move on to this week, this specialty, the East and West final, and I'm gonna go. We're talking about the first final. That's gonna happen at 3 o'clock on Saturday. Hamilton at home, the blackout game against the Montreal Alouettes, and these two have gone head to head quite a bit this year, and it's tuned up to be a great matchup, and it's gonna be an incredible game. Are you going to that game?
Oh, buddy, I'll be there. Come on. That's the game. But yeah, so like you said, Montreal has lost uh both games to Hamilton this year. Sure, they didn't have Davis Alexander, but they lost both games to them. That's the same defense. It's
Yep.
not a different defense. That they picked apart the defense. But I'm looking forward to the guy who I think should win the MOP is Bo Levi Mitchell. That guy,
I like
that
that.
that guy, that guy is going to either win the game or he's not going to show up. But he will show up because I think he realizes that this is the year. His secondary is unbelievable right behind the leading safety, and I think one of, if not the best, Stavros Castantonis back there, leading
Yeah.
the helm of the defense. You got the number one corner in the CFL, Jamal Peters. You got Amos. You got Talbert, who everybody thought would have been the weak link of the team, but the guy's got all the interceptions, right? You
And
got
they have that
Moxley
rookie and
too,
that rookie linebacker out of Windsor.
Devin Verasuk, right? Their defense is built. I'll give credit though. I'll say Montreal's got the better D line though, right? I would give them credit because
More
they got
physical D
Isaac,
line.
Enemy Berglund, they got Luol Ugwak, they got Mustafa Johnson, they got Archibald, right? They got Dylan Wynn, former Cat. But I'd give them the D line. But the O line for the Cats needs to step up big
Yeah.
against a D line like that. If they don't, it's going to be a tough game because the run game for the Cats is what's going to help them win the ball game. Because if you looked at the last game of the year, to be honest, where was Kenny Lawler? Right?
Yeah.
There's no that guy needed one more touchdown to break the record for the Cats. Didn't get it. Where was Kenny Lawler? Were they just hiding him so they didn't give up too much away for the playoffs? Like, what were they thinking? Because Greg Bell got his 1,000 yards on the year,
Yeah.
right? But what's to happen because Davis Alexander is undefeated, like we
Yeah.
mentioned. He is undefeated as a starter, which you never see before. So if that guy played a full year, do you think he'd be undefeated? I don't know.
For
We
sure not. For
honestly
sure
don't
not.
know,
He would have lost one or two games.
right? He would have lost, but because of his luck and who he's played in those 10 games, he's 10-0, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's 10-0. So those 10 games he's played, he's had the opponents, he's get to beat down on them. But you got to look at it is you're going into Hamilton.
Yeah.
Hamilton sells out in the playoffs. They
And it's gonna
sold
be a
out Labor
blackout. It's
Day.
gonna be an electric game. I'm more surprised this game isn't at night. Like it's at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
They're not the yeah. You would think the East game would be the 6:30 game and the
Yeah.
West game would be 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
But
But
hey, no complaining here. It's a full day of football. This is right before the Grey Cup. You got the other matchup. You got Saskatchewan and BC, right? And who you rooting for out of that game, Saskatchewan, BC?
I think I'm gonna root for BC. I'm a big Nathan Rourke fan. I won't hide it. I can finally show it out. I'm a big Nathan York fan. Um, but who are you going for in that game?
Oh, well, I mean, who do I? So here's the thing:
It's like
who
who
do
do
I
you?
want the Cats to face?
Yeah,
Who do I want the Cats to face? We should have beat Saskatchewan early in the year. We
yeah.
all know that.
And have that. It would be awesome if Hamilton did face against Saskatchewan in the Grey Cup. Because remember the last time they played each other in the Grey Cup, that was an embarrassing game. When who was the quarterback that time? Henry Burris.
It was a Henry Burr's first. Oh, what was his name?
Yeah, who
Devin
was?
Durant.
Yeah, that was a very disappointing Grey
20,
Cup matchup.
2013.
Yeah, 2013 Grey Cup matchup. That was a disappointing one for the Tiger Cats. But that would be a cool rematch. The first time since 2013, Hamilton and Saskatchewan face off each other in the Grey Cup. But I would think I would think the easier opponent for Hamilton if they do win. I would like to say it's
BC.
BC. Yeah, yeah.
And hear me out. I'm more happy if it's BC versus Hamilton because I'm okay with the outcome of who wins.
Yeah, because
Right? It's gonna
Nathan
suck,
York gets his first. Like that would just be storybook too.
right? It's so yeah, like it will suck the Ticats lose because they haven't won since '99. But then you
Yeah,
look at the other way, you're like, this guy who's supposed to be, he's probably gonna try to be a Hall of Fame quarterback.
yeah.
right? And Nathan Rourke, and the guy wins the Grey Cup. You're just like, oh, okay, we got
Feels
some
good.
now. A
So it'd be a,
Canadian winning the Grey Cup at starting quarterback. Now we're talking. This is what the Canadian Football League's all about. The
yeah,
Canadian Football League, starting with that pure Canadian quarterback and Nathan Rourke winning his
and
first Grey Cup.
pure Canadian talent. But I think it would just be I think that would just be special. But first, Hamilton has to get through a tough team in Montreal, and then BC has to get through a tough team in Saskatchewan. But no matter what, that Saskatchewan and BC game is going to be tremendous. No matter what, that's going to be a tough matchup. You want to talk about that matchup a little bit?
Yeah, so well, where do I start? You got you got Trevor Harris, who for some reason that guy don't age.
Yeah, for real. Yeah,
That guy don't age. He was like when Tom Brady was playing in the NFL and is like 45. Guy
yeah,
don't age and he's just dominating.
yeah.
Um, they have AJ Ouellette, who you haven't seen much of. Like he's been quiet this year.
Yeah, he's
Like he
been
got
quieter
better.
over years, but like over time, like this year, and it's been kind of a shocker. But I think he's ready for an explosive game. And you think about it, he's gonna be a playoff player. I think he's gonna be one of the players that will take over this game this week. I think if Saskatchewan ends up winning this game this week, he's gonna be the biggest part of it. And that's my prediction right there.
Yeah, that's a solid prediction. I would agree with you on that because they have the defense.
Yeah.
That defense is unreal, right? Malik Carney, Shane Ray, Micah Johnson. The D
And
line's
Micah Johnson
unreal.
doesn't even seem like he's aging either.
Oh my God. You see that guy's built like an NFL player, but the guy's a CFL tackle, like
Yeah.
CFL nose tackle. The guy just dominates the field.
And then
Like
the last time Saskatchewan BC played was the last week of the regular season, wasn't it? Or was it the second? But near the end of the season, that was a grudge match too. I believe it ended in a one-score game, and that one was a grudge match. And
that was that ended 27-21,
yeah,
right? And you look
yeah,
at that.
and that might have been. And I know Trevor Harris didn't play the full game there because obviously why would you play your starters majority of the game? But that was still a grudge match no matter what. But this is this game. I think I'm more excited for this game than the Hamilton Tiger Cats one just because I think it's two heavyweights going at it. I think both games are to be honest, but the reason why I think I'm more into this game is because it's gonna be it's the atmosphere in Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan this weekend. If you didn't know, the CJFL playoffs.
Oh
With,
yeah,
with
buddy.
with the Hilltops are in it. I'm pretty sure there's
Versus
another.
Steel Kagan Sun.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's basically you got your Saskatchewan versus BC kind of the you kind of got that going on. You got the CFL and then you got the CJFL.
yeah,
Praise and you look at it, you want to talk about that, you got alumni in the CFL in the Saskatchewan and BC game, right?
yeah,
They have Sean White. Sean
yep,
White is an alumni and the guy on I'm drawing a blank. Who is it? Zach Fry,
yep. Zach Fry, yep.
right? He's another guy that played in no, sorry, Logan Ferdland. That's who it
Oh,
is.
Logan Ferguson, yes, yes, yes,
Yes,
yes, yes.
that's the guy.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there's right there, there's two guys in the CJFL alumni battling it out, and you got the national championship, Saskatchewan Hilltops versus Okanagan Sun. And another guy you may know, Keelan Thomas, is another CJFL alumni. Obviously, your brother is,
yeah.
right?
A
So
lot of good CJFL alumni over the
dude,
past.
football this weekend.
Yeah,
That's what it is, baby.
yeah, massive Canadian football because you have the Yates Cup this weekend. Also, actually going to be covering on the episode tomorrow with my color commentators Nick Tazio. So everyone check out for that one too. And but yeah, it's just a big Canadian football weekend. You got the divisional finals. You got the Yates Cup. So you got basically all the conference championships and U Sports, and then you got the Sun versus the Hilltops, and you got the British Columbia Lions against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Like the two cities, Bo, by the way, the two teams, um, from both the Saskatchewan and BC, and then the Sun and Hilltops. Those two teams, those four programs, I should say. What a weekend you guys are about to have, and especially football in Saskatchewan. In Saskatchewan, What a weekend it's about to be for Saskatchewan, I should say. What a weekend it's going to be. And I think the reason why I'm more excited, that's the reason why I'm excited for it, is I think the air in Saskatchewan is going to be a little different. It's going to be playoff football at Mosaic. It's going to be a sold out crowd, I believe it's already. I just love that stadium too, and I love how it looks. I love how when it's buzzing. I love seeing the green. You might think I'm a Saskatchewan Roughriders fan the way I speak about it right now, but I'm very excited for that game. I'm also excited for the Hamilton Tiger Cats game because I'm a Hamilton Tiger Cats fan. But man, we got good football happening on Saturday.
No doubt, man. And it's gonna be good. You got, like you said, it's if you love Canadian football,
Yeah,
sure, you're a fan of the Ticats if you are like yourself and I, but you're looking forward to the heavyweight match because that is a prime time game Saturday evening. You're watching because that team, sure, we're Hamilton fans, but we deep down know that matchup could determine the Grey Cup champion.
and yes, exactly. And I think no matter what this year, we're going to have a close Grey Cup matchup, a close game,
Oh
a
yeah.
good 4 quarters of football. I don't think it's going to be a blowout this year. Whether what 4 teams advance, if it's Montreal, BC, Hamilton, BC, or Hamilton, Saskatchewan, or Saskatchewan, Montreal, doesn't matter what 2 teams make it and advance to the Grey Cup. It's going to be a close game, and you have Machine Gun Kelly at the halftime show. It's just going to be an electric day next weekend.
Oh, you can't wait. It's that time of the year. Sure, then we're all saying, is it June yet? You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
like,
Is it June
we're
yet?
we're waiting for it, but then you get your favorite part because it's CFL. This is probably the most fascinating offseason in sports because it is not everybody sticks around. They go after 1 year, they're flipping teams. You got guys from Toronto coming down to QEW to Hamilton or Hamilton going to Toronto.
And
You
that's what
got
makes the
guys
rivalry Labor Day still special. So special.
You got guys going from Ottawa to Montreal, Montreal to Ottawa. You got guys from Calgary going to Edmonton, Edmonton going to Calgary. They don't care about the rivalry anymore because they just want to play football, right?
Exactly. But that's
And
what
the
makes
off
it special
season's
too,
so
though.
good.
That's what makes it special that they were playing on this team. They want to prove their point on why they should have stayed there and belonged there if something went wrong in the locker room for some players that they want to really mean business when they play against their former teams. And yeah, this offseason, you're going to see a lot of big names change, I believe. But we're going to talk about the offseason right now, actually. First team I want to talk about because they were probably arguably they were the worst team in the Canadian Football League, and they just fired their head coach. The Ottawa Red Blacks. What direction could the Ottawa Red Blacks go? I'm going to give you 3 minutes to talk about it because then we got to go to the next teams.
Okay, so Ottawa, their problem was Drew Brown. The same thing. He couldn't stay healthy. That guy needed to stay healthy for that team to win football games. Then their defense just fell apart. Sure, they have a guy like a Darius Pickett running the helm, but there's just some there. And like, can we talk about how they didn't run the ball with Dan Adeboboye
Yep.
rest of the year? Like, what is going on, man? They were winning football games when that guy was running the ball. And then they just decided, Tommy Condell decided, nah, I don't want to run the ball anymore with him.
hmm
Let's go back to stand back. Stand backs
And
didn't.
Tommy Condell's a former tight cat guy too, right?
Yes, and
Yeah.
that's why I'm not a big fan of him because he ruined
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there's no shade thrown, but like you look at it, you go, you brought in Stanback to learn to teach Dan
Yeah.
Adeboboye, right? The guy to be the goal line stuff. Dan Adeboboye, when he was out there, man, he was a receiving back. If you were to tell me, because we talked about Calgary having their summer, if you were to tell me in that summer that Dan Adeboboye would stop being the number one running back in Ottawa, I would have never believed you.
Yeah, I'd be shocked.
Right? That guy could have won Canadian, like he could have won most outstanding Canadian for the way he was playing. Because that guy was just running the ball like he was the best one in the best back in the league. He was
He was
catching the
running
ball like he was the
hungry. He was running, and he showed his speed off. It is a shock on why they stopped using him.
100%, right? That was the thing. Why did you stop using a guy like that? And then you got to look at who's going to take over the head coaching job.
Do you have anybody in mind that you would want to see become a head coach? Like, do you think? let's say Montreal gives rid of Anthony Calvillo and he takes his head coaching opportunity in Ottawa. Like wait, give me some names. Just it doesn't really have it doesn't have to be a prediction or anything. But who do you wish to become a head coach in the CFL?
I think
And the only one that's open right now is the Ottawa Red Blacks.
I think the Argos defensive coordinator should
Okay.
be a head coach. He's Shivers, I believe
Yeah.
is his name.
Yeah.
He should
Cyrus.
be a head coach. That guy's where he went from Saskatchewan to Toronto, and Toronto's defense was good. Like they turned nothing into something.
Yeah.
Like, sure, they weren't winning football games, but like Shivers, I think he would be the guy to take over Ottawa because Ottawa's always had a defense. They
Yeah.
need they don't they need a defensive guy to run the helm because Dice wasn't the answer. But then again, they also had Rick Campbell on the sidelines. Nobody talked about that. That guy's
Really? I
sneaky
didn't even know
good.
that. I didn't even know that.
He was working for Ottawa. He was assistant and I believe he was doing special teams at the time. So they
Okay.
could rehire him as the head coach and try with him again because, they're going to be out like realistically, we're talking about it. They're free agents. They got Dan Adebaboy and William Stanback. The two guys we just talked about are
Yeah.
free agents.
It's I
What are they going to do for their coach? Like, if those guys want to come back, you got to see who's going to be the coach and who's going to stay.
And then players like to also wait and see who they hire as head coach before they even think of resigning. Especially in the
Oh, yeah,
CFL. Like, hey, if you guys don't have a coach, like, I'm not resigning yet because they just had a miserable year. They're not trying to repeat a miserable year. But in the CFL, the art of the CFL is you can rebuild within one summer or one spring, one
hmm,
winter, one spring, whatever you want to call it. That you can rebuild for summer. And I think the Ottawa Red Blacks, if they bring the right people and the right personnel in, they re-sign their biggest free agents and they add on, I don't think that there should not be and they find a real quarterback. I think there shouldn't be a reason on why the Ottawa Red Blacks shouldn't have been successful next year. It just starts with who's going to be running the team.
exactly. They have a great GM in Sean Burke, right? Like,
Yeah.
they have a great GM. It's not like they don't have a great GM. It's just what are they going to do for that coaching staff, and what is it going to draw for players' attention wise? Like, if it's somebody like Shivers, they're going to go defensive heavy and bring in all these defensive free agents. If they go back to Rick Campbell, are they going to bring in all the offensive guys because Rick Campbell likes his offense to stand back, come back because he had Rick Campbell in BC? Lots of opportunities, lots of questions, which is why the CFL off season's so good, man. It
Uh,
keeps you on your toes.
Keeps you on the toes. Toronto Argos now. Let's go move smooth to Toronto Argos now. Chad Kelly's most likely coming back next year. He was injured all year. What do you think? Do you think that was what went wrong this year for the Toronto Argonauts? Not having a real quarterback at the realm?
Mm, I don't think so.
What do you think? What do you think they have to do in this offseason? What do you think the biggest what do you think the reason why they weren't successful this year? And what do you think they have to do in the offseason?
Run game.
Okay.
They got rid of Kadeem Carey
Yeah.
and they didn't bring in anybody,
Fair. Facts.
right? They had Brown, they
Yeah.
had Dante
They tried to do it by
McMahon.
committee this year, right? They tried to do it
Yes.
by committee, yeah.
They didn't work. That's why Nick Arbuckle had like the second most passing yards in the league because they didn't run the ball. So here's the guy. Now, not too many people will mention, but I'm going to mention it. A guy like Walter Fletcher. You would probably remember him from the
Yeah.
Alouettes.
Yeah.
Why did they never bring that guy in Toronto?
Yeah, that makes yeah.
That guy could have dominated for Toronto because he sets up the pass, he sets up the run. You don't need him to block, you just need him to run the ball.
And he's a proven talent already.
Yes. Can't
I,
believe that guy was a free agent, man. That's
I
that's a
know.
stinger.
And he shouldn't have been first.
No,
Should have never been a free agent. Should never be a free agent.
no.
Um, with Chad Kelly coming back, you think if and they do get a real running back, what do you think they need to fix anything on this defense next year? Because they can always bring in a lot of ex NFL talent. They bring in a lot of big name players on that defense just because, most of the NFLers only know one city in Canada, and it is Toronto. Um, but what do you think they have to really work on this offseason? One, I know the running game. What else?
I think their D line.
Okay.
Their D
Yeah, they need
line,
to reshape it because remember like 2 years ago, or well, yeah, last year they had one of the most outstanding defensive line for the past for the after before this year, like for 3 years.
yes,
It was just tremendous. They were disrupting play. Yeah, they were. Yes, yes, and I agree with you a lot, a lot.
right? Because they have the linebackers. They have Win McManus. They have
Yeah,
Cameron Judge. They have Dozer. They have the linebackers. Their DBs aren't too bad,
yeah.
right? They got McFadden on the corner, but like the D line, the CFL, if you don't get any pressure on a quarterback, you can't do anything. Because that
Yeah.
leaves your secondary and your linebackers high and dry, and they have no pressure, and they're stuck playing one-on-one with receivers, and it's not very good.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to play one on one when, especially when a quarterback's scrambling out of the pocket and the receivers are now creating, just trying to get open and trying to guard a receiver with 65 with Fields is forget about it. But
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with you that a lot. I want anything else before we move on to the other team, to one more team?
I can't really think of anything on the Argos. I mean, maybe do they look at they're firing their head coach mid-season if it goes wrong?
I
Like,
think so. I don't see them if they do go bad 2 years in a row and they don't make the and they know they're not gonna make the playoffs. I think Dinwiddie is out. I do think that.
yeah, I agree. That's the way I look at it.
But let's go to the last team I want to talk about is, they started getting it going around the second half of the season. The Edmonton Elks. They started with Trey Ford, Niagara Falls guy. I have a lot of respect for Trey Ford. Truthfully, he just couldn't get it done. They bring in his brother Tyrell Ford. People simply just weren't throwing to him. I was watching all these games because I like watching the Niagara Falls guy. They simply just weren't throwing his way, but he still did good at locking down his receivers. And when he did get thrown to, he made some nice plays. I really like the first year head coach that Edmonton has. I like a lot on what Edmonton's doing, and I think they're slowly building into a winning program. But what do you think about them?
So, as of today, they brought back Curly Giddens Jr.,
It's huge.
right? That's huge because they still have Keon Julian Grant, Stephen Dunbar. Those are two top free agents for them at receiver. Dunbar, I think he comes back. He didn't get a full season and he liked
Yeah.
playing under Fajardo because, to be honest, if you looked at that team at
What
the
about
beginning of the year,
Fajardo? Fajardo, how many? He has 2 years on his contract
no,
or just
he's a
one?
free agent
Yeah,
too.
he's a free agent. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but like if you look at it, if you were to tell me at the beginning of the year before the season started, Steven Dunbar would have been the top guy for the team when he was healthy, I would have never guessed because with
Mm.
guys like Curly Giddens and Keon Julian Grant, you would have never done it. And then they had they had a surprising receiver in Victor, guy from Ohio State.
Oh yeah.
That guy, the guy never you never see him before. He had an unreal sleeper season. But yeah,
And then
man,
the running game, Rankin.
Rankin,
Yeah,
oh, and
spectacular
Leak.
year. Yeah,
And Leak back there. Leak
yeah,
was good when he needed to, but he's a returner. But yeah,
yeah.
man, like you said, like I, I do, they have to. Do you think they pay Fajardo? Is the
I think they
question.
have to pay for Jordo on how positive he did when he took over the team. But the question is, you know, I'm not saying anything bad about Trey Ford or anything.
No,
The
I
Trey
agree.
Ford experiment right now isn't going as everyone expected. I wish it could go differently. Yes, he can use his legs to get him out of trouble. But there's passes there that he just can't make, but that Cody Fajardo can make. I think you sign both of them. I think Trey Ford's actually already still in their
Yeah,
contract,
he's still under contract.
but I do think you re-sign Cody Fajardo for maybe one more year, 2 more years. Have him really build up Trey. Teach him what he can be taught. Teach him your ways, and then you pass the torch on in 2 years. Like it won't be a bad project. You can't give up on a prospect like that that's had a stellar youth sports career, and he has had shown flashes and shown potential and straightforward that he can be great in this league. It's just now you have to teach. Yeah, he just needs a mentor quarterback to mentor him and teach him the ropes on how you can do that consistently um, at the top. at the top of the
Yeah.
game as quarterback one. And I think Cody Fajardo is perfect for this Edmonton Elk rebuild, this Edmonton Elk team, potentially taking them to the playoffs next year. And I think he just fits the scheme too perfectly. I think Cody Fajardo is a 10 out of 10 quarterback.
Oh, 100%. I agree. But I'm not throwing shade at anybody, but Trey Ford, he didn't learn much under MBT,
Yeah, I know he didn't.
right? He didn't learn that much. Fajardo's a Grey Cup champion with the
Yeah.
Argos, I believe, right?
Yeah. No, he is.
Well,
Yeah. Yep.
yes. So he won with the Argos, but he's been in the playoffs. He knows what he's doing. Sure, McLeod Bethel Thompson won it for the Argos, but that guy didn't do much for the Argos. He
And,
sat.
and also I don't even think he was really there to be a mentorship. The way that TSN always portrayed it, that it was always, it didn't even it just seemed like a 1-2 battle each week on who, like, it just kept on, like, it just felt like Bethel Thompson was just trying to keep his career going, and making sure this young gun and this new quarterback leaders drafted doesn't take his spotlight and take his job. And
Yeah.
obviously you're not, and I don't think you're going to learn a lot under MBT, because he also might not even just want to, he didn't even want to be a mentor quarterback. He didn't want to be a mentorship quarterback. Cody Fajardo, he can win you games. He can teach your young guys, or he could be the veteran leader that I think Trey Ford always needed.
Oh yeah, 100%. Right. Look at who's the quarterback? The third string in BC came from Saskatchewan. Was it Bryce, I believe? Something
Um,
like that. But
the
he
third
was
string
under
quarterback.
he was under Fajardo in Saskatchewan.
Oh, Chase Bryce.
Yeah, I believe so. And Davis Alexander, that's another one. Look at
Yeah,
that guy. We mentioned him multiple times tonight. 10-0 as a quarterback. Why is he 10-0? Who'd he learn under?
Cody
Learned under
Fajardo.
Cody Fajardo,
Yeah,
right? So that's where it is. Because trust me, I'm on the same boat as you. I think that Trey Ford has what it takes to be the guy in the CFL. He can do it. He just needs time. It's not like the NFL where you can go straight from college and start in the NFL,
yeah,
right? The CFL you have to develop as a
yeah,
quarterback because quarterbacks don't come too often in the CFL that are Canadian, right? Because they get all these guys from the States that don't make it in the NFL come down to the CFL and do their jobs. But you got pure talent like Nathan Rourke coming out of, he went to an American school, but he's
yeah.
still
Ohio.
Canadian,
They're
right? An
actually playing right
Ohio
now.
guy.
I'm actually watching their game on the background, the Ohio Bobcats game, the Maction on Tuesday.
Love Mac
A
Tuesdays.
little
Love
Maction
it.
action, but yeah, keep on continue.
Love it. But yeah, no. And then you got some like, so that's another thing. Ohio, you're mentioning Ohio. Look at who Laurier's quarterback is now. Kyle
Yeah,
Wither.
yeah,
The
and
guy
he's a
went,
stud.
oh my God. I think he's the next Taylor Algersma,
Yeah,
right? He's the next guy to do the whole league jump to the NFL, try it out, and come back to CFL because they're built the same. They're tall quarterbacks. But that right there, that's what you need. You need the quarterbacks that have that experience. Trey Ford had U Sports experience.
yeah,
Every quarterback that usually basically starts in the CFL has American college experience or they have NFL experience. Trey Ford didn't get that kind of stuff,
yeah,
right? If he would have got with Taylor Algersma guy, like a training camp, like he actually got to stay there and they want him for a quarterback, not a receiver
yeah,
or whatever it was, then yeah, he definitely would have got it. Because look at his brother, Terrell Ford. You mentioned it that they didn't throw the ball to him. They didn't throw the ball to him because they were scared to throw the ball to him.
yeah,
You try to throw that ball in the direction of him or Jamal Peters, what's happening? The ball's going the other way,
yeah. It's gonna be
right?
intercepted.
That's exactly it. So that's why I think Trey Ford needs to learn from a guy like Cody Fajardo, right? He needs to learn the game better because he knows what he's doing. It's kind of the same as what U Sports is, but like we mentioned, the veterans aren't going to want to stick around after the new rule changes.
Mhm.
I think it will be a new league. It'll be new quarterbacks. It'll be, the guys taking over that want to play and stay in the CFL. So that's perfect for Trey Ford to learn from Cody Fajardo for the next 2 years. And once the rule changes are in effect, guy takes over and the guy takes over the league, and we're all happy. Him and his brother dominate the league.
Yeah.
You got your Niagara Fall boys,
Hmm.
right?
Oh
They're
yeah.
just that's what it is. That's the Canadian Football League right there.
And that's what I always think. Like, people around the city too always talk about. I'm not throwing any shade. I'm just quoting what people tell me or what people talk to me. 'Cause trust me, I talk Niagara sports a lot. I'm around it too as a coach. As a coach in the in the football world, in Niagara Falls, especially with the Ford brothers coming up, they always start talking about what do you think Edmonton's going to do with Trey? They're going to keep him. They're going to keep him. There is no doubt in my mind that they're going to keep him and have him develop behind Cody Fajardo. Because if they don't, I think that's an idiotic move.
Oh, teams are snatching him up.
Yeah, teams are going to snatch him and they're going to do the process correctly. But Edmonton, they have, I think Chris Jones was that the coach before Edmonton before the new coach.
Yes.
Yeah, don't think he was ever good in the CFL. I don't. Yes, he was a great cup winning coach. He was a long time coach. I don't think I've ever liked him as a coach. And that's me just growing up and seeing him coach. He was our Canadian version of what? The Bill Belichick, but he's just not that. He's more of a, I'm going to say it straight bluntly, he was more of just a grumpy old man that just didn't really want to, just didn't want to develop quarterbacks, just didn't want to develop players, just want to be, hey, you're ready to play, you're from college, you're ready to play, we're going to jump you in. The new coach that Edmonton has goes, we're going to take your time with you. I'm trying to create a winning culture here. I'm going to take my time here. I'm going to develop you. We're going to develop you. We have mentors here as coaches and as veteran players. We're going to develop you and we're going to bring you to the next level. And then after that, if it doesn't work, your project's done. We can at least say that we tried our hardest to develop you as a player, but if it doesn't work out, we're going to ship you aside. They're taking their time now, and you can just feel the new culture in Edmonton. You can just feel it, and you feel like they're on the brink of something. And I think it starts with developing their future quarterback in Trey Ford.
Oh, 100%. Because you mentioned Chris Jones. Sure, the Ticats had him, but what was he there for the Ticats? Defense.
Yeah.
Chris
Defensive
Jones,
minded coach.
he's defensive minded coach, so he didn't get the chance to work with Trey Ford. Mark Killam was a special teams guy in Calgary, but you can tell that guy's changed the culture in Edmonton,
Yeah.
right? So that guy's looking at is I got a future in Trey Ford because, like we mentioned, that guy's getting snatched up if they don't work on him,
Yeah.
right? Any team, if I'm any team in the CFL and Trey Ford ever became available, I'm knocking on Edmonton door and like, hey, how can I get this guy on my team? One,
Yeah.
he's Canadian. He's got the Canadian status. Two, the
Yeah.
guy can run. You need a mobile quarterback in the CFL. And three, you bring him, you probably can bring his brother with you.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like a package deal. It could go. But I think the coach for Edmonton, Mark Callum, is that his name? That's how you say it?
Yeah.
Terrific guy. He seems like a terrific guy. He seems like what he's doing over there. I think he is the perfect head coach for a rebuilding team. And I think he's going to be the perfect coach to take Edmonton to the promised land in the future. I think they found an absolute gem in him. And I think this team is on the right path. And what he does, and what he has done just this sole year for Edmonton, I got to give him an A plus rating on his first year of being a head coach. I got to give
Oh,
him props for props due. A plus.
oh yeah, 100%. They turned that season around. They went they had Jarius Jackson, he in his 13 games, him and Chris Jones, they weren't that very good, right? They both split the duties in 2024. But
Yeah,
Mark Killam turned that program around and he went 7-11. That's
yeah,
impressive. For
yeah,
the way they started, they turned it around and went 7-11. That's good. That's a good turning point. Because now you can fire it off like, hey, we're there. 7-11. This division's easy to win. Like you don't have to win the division. You just can be the crossover team.
yeah. You just have to be you just have to come fourth place.
You have to be better than the East.
Yeah,
And right now, if you were to tell me next year that Edmonton could be the crossover team, I'd be like, hell yeah.
yeah. I think so
I
too. I
think
think
they're
hell
better than
yeah,
the Argos. I think they're
yeah,
better than the Red Blacks. And
yeah.
I
I
think
think so too.
the Elks with the full season, again, we're not throwing shade at Trey Ford. We love the guy.
Yeah,
But full season under Cody Fajardo, they're that crossover team, or they're in the spot right now where who says they lose, like they could lose the BC as the Calgary spot. Sure, they lose, but they made the playoffs. They turned it around because
yeah,
this organization, when they were under Jason Moss, they were Grey Cup caliber team,
yeah.
right? They had Ricky Ray, they were just
Just
dominant.
stellar players over and over.
James Wilder at the time was
Jeff
really
James
good,
Wilder's a great pull,
right?
great guy.
Right? Exactly. So you got to look at it as who who's going to be that next Ricky Ray? Is it going to be Cody Fajardo to be the guy to get them to that Grey Cup, the promised land? It's going to be Trey Ford in the future to get them to the promised land. You know, is they going to have another turnout like they should? Their defense, they have them players.
Yeah.
They do.
And
It's
they have the
just,
skill positions too. Beside, like they have a good young wide receiver lineup. They
oh,
have and they have a good running game. It has to be. It's not consistent at times, but I think they're over. They're almost over the hump and getting it consistent. Offensive line has to be there a little bit. I think they need to establish that offensive line a little bit more, get some more dogs in there. But they'll do that, and there's just a couple more pieces on what they need, and they'll be over that hump. And I think they're that close to being over the hump, and like you're saying, being the crossover team next year or being a surprise team, in the West.
oh yeah. And you know, you like you said, you're talking about your Saskatchewan Rough Riders and you're excited for that game. If I had to choose a team in the West, I'm choosing Edmonton.
Yeah,
Right? If you pick, I'm a Hamilton Edmonton guy. I like Edmonton because I've always liked there's a promise there.
yeah,
They're the upset like every year for recently since like they lost Jason Moss, they've been that upset team.
yeah.
They come in, they upset the team when they're not supposed to,
They play
and it's
spoiler, man.
they play spoiler, and that's what I love in the Canadian Football League. Is because then you're like, whoa, crap, is this team going to be good enough to do anything this year if they look back and they lost on a team like Edmonton? But
Yeah.
I don't think Edmonton's that team anymore.
Like, but if you think about it, like too, like Edmonton was competitive all the way until like the second last week of the season or third week last week of the season. Like they really turned the script around in the second half of the season, and they were what 2, 3 games out of just the playoffs. 'Cause I think they were just 2 games out of the I want to say the crossover of
They were three.
yeah, they were 3 games out of the crossover. That's a pretty like that's being competitive. Like we haven't seen Edmonton be competitive until late in the season like this in a long time, and and again, that's an A+ right there. I got to give them an A+. I'll give them I don't know, I won't give them an A+ season. I'll give them a B+ season because that means room for improvement. And there's a lot of room for improvement. Like it's but what they're doing over there in Edmonton. I can't wait to see what the future is like for Edmonton. And I can't believe I'm talking good on Edmonton, to be honest. I don't really talk good on Edmonton. When growing up, I go, I don't care about Edmonton. But I really like how the league is becoming a very competitive and the West is just becoming super competitive because it used to just go through one dog, Winnipeg for a long time.
And
Us
then it was
growing up.
Calgary before,
Yeah,
right?
then Calgary before. And then it was sometimes the odd year of BC or Saskatchewan, one of the two. Forget which year it was. There was like 2 years where it was like Saskatchewan, or it was just yeah. I think it was Saskatchewan. Yeah. But then like the East is always wide open each year. Recently, it's been like I'm stuck. This year it's Hamilton, but it's been Montreal, or Toronto. Like it's been like that. Um, but now I think the West is starting to become wide open, a lot more competitive, and the East is becoming this year's it was a two-dog fight, but it's going to become, hopefully next year, a full division dog fight. But we'll see. But overall, I think this season was tremendous for this Canadian Football League. And I think it's only up from here for the league on its own, and Edmonton on its own, Winnipeg. They might be going into a rebuilding year. Like, there's a lot of questions that are going to need to be answered next year. There's a lot of question marks going into the next season, and I'm already excited for next season. I'm kind of disappointed that the season's ending.
Yeah, man. And we're gonna have to talk about the off season,
Yeah,
right?
no, 100
That's a
percent.
down. People are gonna want to know what's going on in the off season. And man, I keep my phone on notifications. I get those updates. I'm on the phone with anybody. Like I tell my dad this because he's a CFL fan just like myself. Man, I am dialed in the off season for the
Yeah.
CFL.
Oh, I
You,
did. I
you,
remember it too, bro. I remember we'd be back we'd be in the back of the editing classroom at Mohawk, and we'd be dialing in on that. What was the first day of free agency?
I like because I live and breathe the CFL, man.
Man,
Like
yeah,
people choose the NFL. I choose the CFL. So I'm all over it because I look at it as I know all the names in the league and I know who's what guy and who can do and what they can do to bring to the table. So
yeah.
yeah, I'm sad about the season being over, but my favorite time of the year, the Grey Cup. It's great, great,
It's
best
the,
best
it's the
game.
it's the it's the kid. It's the best party in Canada.
It's the best part in Canada. Well, I don't know. If you want to talk to Hamiltonians about Labor Day, well,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
that's a whole nother discussion, right? That's a whole
yeah,
nother discussion. But
yeah.
for CFL Canadian, it's the best party in Canada. But if you want to talk about the best party in Hamilton, that's Labor Day.
It's Labor Day Classic on beating the Toronto Argos. But yeah, answer, bro. We'll keep up. We'll probably have you on for the Grey Cup recap.
Oh yeah, we need to talk
Um,
about that.
yeah, we'll talk. We'll have you on in 2 weeks then, and talk the Grey Cup recap. But before I get you to go, final prediction: two teams going to the Grey Cup.
Hamilton, Saskatchewan.
I love that. I can agree with you on that one. I agree with you on that. Anson, thank you for coming on, brother. It's always a pleasure. It was awesome to talk to you too. And we'll see you in a couple weeks, and we'll see you throughout the off season too, man. We got to keep it going.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, great coming on, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.